A very good morning to all of you. We have been talking about the development of literary criticism uh, from the Greek period. We talked about the major contributors to this development of literary criticism. So during the Greek period, we came to know that it was Plato and Aristotle who contributed to the field of literary criticism in the development of literary criticism by their philosophical, political ideas expressed in their books like Republic and uh, Poetics, respectively. At the same time, we came to know about the views of Roman critics, Horace and what we Longinus, Longinus, and at the same time, we also studied the views of the what we call Renaissance critics of Philip's Philip Sidney, Dante, etc. Dante was the Italian critic, thinker, philosopher, writer. At the same time, we came to know about Sir Philip Sidney's views on poetry, that is literature. Then we went on talking about the contribution of the neoclassical critics like John Dryden, then Joseph Addison, Alexander Pope, and then we talked about the romanticists like William Wordsworth and P.B. Shelley in yesterday's lecture. Now we shall go ahead with the next part of our discussion, the 19th and early 20th century literary criticism that existed in England and Europe. Some of the critics are from other countries as well. Now, the critic that we are going to deal with now is from France. He is the French critic, Hippolyte Adolphe Taine is the name of the French critic, and he is well known for his historical study of literature. His work is The History of English Literature, which was published in the year 1863. And this is the first example of the approach that we know as the historical approach. So it was the contribution of Hippolyte Taine. He talked about literature from historical point of view. He adopted the historical approach to the study of literature. So Taine, intended to study only the text without considering the author. Actually earlier, to study the text without considering the author and his or her inner psyche would result in an incomplete analysis. That was the opinion of Taine. It's what? To understand the text, the author should be examined. That's what he felt. Means you cannot understand the text, you cannot study the text without considering the author and his or her inner psyche. So Taine put forth the view that the text and the author should be examined together. What we do today is in line with Taine's view. We follow Taine's opinion on Taine's approach, we can say. Further, he was of the opinion that in the study of the text, the environmental causes should be taken into consideration. Okay, and what are they now? What are these environmental aspects that we need to understand in the process of analysis of the text? He thought that race is one important aspect. Means the race from which the author inherited, or the race that the author has inherited, because his personal characteristics have some kind of roots in his race. That's what Taine felt. Further, Author's culture, intellectual concerns surrounding should be taken into consideration in the study of the text. The time period in which the work was written, that is also very important. And therefore, the moment, epoch, age of writing that we study today uh, was proposed by Hippolyte Taine. Okay, means we, for example, study Elizabethan literature, we talk about neoclassical literature, neoclassical age, the age of Milton, Romanticism, Victorian age, modernism, postmodernism. So this is what epoch or moment is. The time period that the author belonged to is very important. Further, each author's individual talent differentiates him or her from others. That's what Taine thought. So dominant faculty, the talent has to be considered. Taine was mainly interested in the meaning of the text while studying criticism. And we can see the influence of his study now in our day-to-day life. Means in the as a student of literature, I can say, we understand that the text can be approached as a literary object and it can be dissected to discover its meaning. Means a text can be approached as an object, just like dissection takes place in the laboratory, the medical laboratory, in the science laboratory, okay, in the zoological laboratory, we can say, dissection takes place to discover its meaning. So it is the scientific approach. It's a kind of dissection. Means today literary works are now seen as a result of their histories. So this is the influence of Taine in the field of criticism. Whatever we do today is because of Hippolyte Adolphe Taine, the French critic. So what is the catchphrase from his work? He thinks that a work of art is the result of given causes. And what are these causes? These are race, milieu, movement or age, dominant faculty, that is talent. These are the causes that uh, contribute in the making of the text. And being the students of literature, critics as well should take into consideration all these aspects in the study of the text. That's what Hippolyte Taine felt. Another important critic of the same period is Mathew Arnold. I'm sure that you are familiar with this name. You have studied a poem by Mathew Arnold. I wonder if you remember. Does anyone remember the poem that you studied in your SYBA by Mathew Arnold? Well, it was the Dover Beach. Dover Beach was the poem that you studied. So in his essays, Mathew Arnold, he is well known for his two essays, The Study of Poetry and The Function of Criticism at the Present Time. In his essays, Arnold assumes a position, takes a position that combines the ancient theories of criticism with the current emphasis on the objectivity of knowledge. So he combines what? Ancient theories put forth by Aristotle, Horace, etc. He combines these particular theories of criticism with the current emphasis on the objectivity of knowledge. Objectivity means the approach wherein you do not come up with your personal interest, your personal opinions. You keep yourself away from, and you look at a text very objectively. So the main concepts in Mathew Arnold's criticism is that are poetry can provide necessary truths, values, and guidelines for society. That is the main concept. Arnold was of the firm opinion that poetry can provide necessary truths, values, and guidelines for society. So he believed in the didactic approach. Means he thought that poetry can teach so the society values, truth, etc. And the best poetry, according to Arnold, is of a higher truth and seriousness than history. So it is somewhere nearer to Aristotle's idea, Aristotle's thinking. The best poetry is of higher truth and seriousness, even than history or any other human subject or activity, in which he includes religion, science, and philosophy. So the position of poetry is higher than history, religion, science, and philosophy. I just mentioned that his opinion goes in line with Aristotle. He follows Aristotle. According to Arnold, literature reflects the society in which it is written. This is a sociological approach. It is in line with Taine's views. Just now we saw Taine's views. The society is reflected in literature. And for this reason, literature presents the values and concerns of the society. You can find social values, social problems, social concerns in literature. Literature is a reflection of society. The popular definition of literature that we usually quote comes from Arnold's point of view. Arnold was of this opinion that literature is a reflection of society. It mirrors the social life. And in his view, in Mathew Arnold's view, a classic work of literature belongs to the highest or best class. Now, what is classic? So this is something which is highest or best in its standard. And further, look, higher truth is there, and seriousness goes hand in hand with moral excellence. So what are the qualities of a good poetry? The best poetry rather, higher truth. It is higher in its position, in its standard. It has seriousness and moral excellence. If you remember his poem, Dover Beach, you will remember all these qualities in his poem. It was a very serious poem. It talks about the loss of culture. It talks about the loss of, what we call values in human society. So seriousness goes hand in hand with moral excellence. That's what Mathew Arnold felt. In poet, he's talking about poetry. Poetry, again, I would like to tell that poetry is a general term to refer to literature. It is not a particular term. It is the umbrella term rather to name literature. It includes drama, novel, poetry, short stories, all. Okay, in those days, the word poetry was used. Nowadays, we have started using literature. Further, the critic has to be objective. Means what exactly? We mentioned the word objectivity. The critic has to be objective in his approach. Means what exactly? He should not have interest in worldly affairs such as politics, because it causes bias. Means if you are interested in the ideology of particular political party, then you may have a problem. Means you may not remain objective. You should be free from such kind of worldly affairs. Means if you support a particular party and if you look at a poem from that point of view, so that is not objective approach. You keep yourself away from such things. That is objective. Means you do not favor anything at all. Otherwise, what happens if you have got a particular political stand? It leads into a bias. Now, for example, I'll tell you that what happened. I tell you what happened with the book by Rohinton Mystery, Such a Long Journey. Such a Long Journey is a book by Rohinton Mystery. I studied that book in 2001 as part of my MA English course in Shivaji University. I did my post graduation from Shivaji University. Recently, in 2010 or around 14, I don't remember exactly, but this book was prescribed in the syllabus of Mumbai University. And somebody, means one of the friends of Aditya Thackeray, found objection in it, because he comments on Shiv Sena. So the book was removed from. Aditya Thackeray made the university to remove the book from the syllabus. So this is what, lack of objectivity is. When you belong to a particular party or when you have a particular political ideology, you start looking a work of literature from that point of view. So Mathew Arnold thinks that we should not have such approach in the study of literature. We should have objective approach. It happens in cases of many Hindi movies, certain social religious organizations oppose the release of that particular movie only because of what we call this bias. Because you take stand, you look that particular film, literary work from that point of view. That is the problem. So when you have that objective, the critic has this objectivity, he paves the way for high culture. Means the society will be very much cultured and civilized. Such kind of thinking will be inculcated in the society. So the critique is to refer to the ideas and expressions of the masters of the antiquity, somewhere nearer to neoclassicism. Mathew Arnold was a classicist in his approach. So what he thought, a critic should study the masters of antiquity, refer to the ideas and expressions, means should have knowledge of the ancient critics, classical critics like Plato, Aristotle, Horace, Longinus, etc. And a critic should use them as a chief criterion in the judgment of poetry. Okay. So he uses the term, I forgot, what we use in the in deciding the quality of gold. In deciding the good quality of gold. Okay, Parisparsha, that is the Marathi word. So these ancient masters can be kind of paris, which can judge the quality of the gold, means the quality of the literary work. So that touchstone is the English word, touchstone. He uses the term touchstone. So they can become kind of touchstones. Okay. And his interest was mainly in the function of poetry. When we talk about Arnold's contribution to the field of literary criticism, Arnold's aim for an objective criticism results in the opposite direction, actually. Now, the critic is not only an interpreter of literary text, but also has a duty as the authority on values, culture, and tastes of the society. A critic was supposed to be just an interpreter, but now a critic is trying to become an authority. They keep on talking about values, culture, and tastes of the society. It has gone in the opposite direction, as you see these days. There is opposition to movies, films, etc., because critics try to become authority. They keep on talking about values, culture, and tastes of society as if they are the masters and all. So this is how we understand Matthew Arnold's contribution to literary criticism.